Welcome, everyone. It's Lisa Norell, and this is episode 73 of The Mindful Marketer. What a great session we have today. What's your marketing innovation melody? And you will soon be meeting our, as I call them, our power panel, who are joining us from across the USA, who are going to give you some great insights and wisdom around this topic. Why should this matter to you right now? Because technology disruptions such as generative AI, new ways of working are really not innovative unless they are designed to improve your stakeholders' condition. And furthermore, innovation is not so easy these days, now that we're all still trying to figure out how can we work best together in hybrid and blended work settings. Wow, it's a crazy time, isn't it? So today I want us to look at the songbook of our innovation and say, which notes do we keep and which ones need to be thrown away and discarded forever? So I love metaphors, and to me, each innovation sounds and looks different in some way, shape, or form. So much like the melody of a song, it carries the through line of a company. Innovation fuels the life of your company. So your melody or your innovation is either going to inspire people or it's going to fall flat. So today we're going to try to get everyone singing from the same hymnal, which is understanding what marketing innovation is, the different kinds of marketing innovation, and some very concrete examples from our esteemed panelists. So I'm going to recap on something that I covered last night when I sent an updated video to all of you, which was, what are the types of marketing innovation? So there are really three categories we're going to dance with today. Here I go with the darn metaphors again. The first one is when you have an innovation that is extremely disruptive. And so you could think of generative AI for marketing content creation as relatively disruptive. It is disrupting people's jobs, and it is forcing us to redesign our job descriptions if we are leading marketing. The second kind is what I'll call a partial form of innovation, where maybe you're disrupting one or two industries slightly, much like we saw Cirque du Soleil do when they decided to pursue an entirely new category by stealing some market share from the theater industry and the circus industry. And then the third is what Renee Mulborn talks about in her new book, which is called Beyond Disruption, where you talk mostly about or look at non-disruptive creations. And, you know, this could be, one example would be Grameen Bank, which does micro lending. You know, they found an unmet need and frustration. They filled it and now have approximately a 98% repayment rate for their micro loans. They did not steal market share from some of the main lenders in the world. So I just want you to kind of think about that. That's our context for today. And now I'll tell you about our panelists who are joining us. First, we have Monique Elliott joining us from Schneider Electric, where she is the Senior Vice President of Global Brand and Communications. And Monique has lived in the world of innovation for years. Her teams have won independent awards for one of the most valuable brands in the world. And she's also won with her teams Best Top B2B Marketing Campaigns. Monique, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much.
We also have Eric McCarthy. He's a seasoned board executive, board chair, former officer of the Coca-Cola Company, and investor. He's also near and dear to my heart as a collaborator and a fellow animal welfare supporter. Eric, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Shane McCarthy's joining us from Arlington, Virginia. He's the CMO of Sandbox. He's a recovering software engineer, and he's been leading marketing at growth at Sandbox, helping the company grow from zero to over $100 million in valuation. done some incredibly innovative things around uniting families. And I'm so thrilled you're here, Shane. You were the recipient of the CMO Beacon Award at our last innovation conference. Welcome.
Thanks, Lisa. It's great to be here.
And first of all, I throw this out to the group. We're going to welcome people as they come in and ask questions here in the comments and tell us where they're from. But let me ask each of you, how are you looking at marketing innovation differently right now at this point in time in this new era of efficiency?
I'm happy to kick us off, Lisa. And I think the primary word there was in this is efficiency, right? In the era of efficiency, which is causing us to rethink structurally, organizationally, how do we tackle innovation in marketing? So one of the things that we've been doing at Schneider is the approach of sprint squads. We used to call them tiger teams back in the day, but as opposed to building up a lot of structure in the organization, it's taking topics that are a little bit more on the cutting edge and pulling together people who are interested in growing and developing into teams. It might not be their day-to-day. Perhaps they each give 20 to 30%, but it moves us forward without creating a lot of cost and a lot of structure into the organization. It's not a new concept per se, but we are employing it more and more, especially you mentioned, AI and some other technologies that are coming on board. How do we leverage the existing expertise in the organization and the passion and the enthusiasm around innovation in order to push some of these topics forward, while also still being very, very agile? So that's one of the things that we're doing. And the other thing I should mention is that it's not always marketing professionals that are in these groups or in these sprint squads. It's leaning into other parts of the organization that also have an interest. Maybe it's within IT, maybe it's within the finance organization. And so I think one of the things that we've learned from this is by keeping the teams very tight and a very tight cadence, you can actually move the ball pretty far down a path without a lot of disruption to the organization.
So how does a sprint squad form itself? And who decides how that group is going to look?
So just, I'll go ahead and just kind of play on that a little bit, Lisa. So, it happens a couple different ways. I mean, oftentimes there is an executive sponsor that says, listen, there's a big topic. We did this with EBM, right? That was, maybe not considered the most innovative topic within marketing, but certainly for us, it was a topic we wanted to excel. So we had an executive sponsor and they worked to find the right people to come together. So oftentimes the folks are selected, or we just did this a couple weeks ago, is we put a call to action out in one of the open lines for the entire marketing function and said, hey, there's a new project on the table. We want to explore it. Who's interested? And you get 4 or 5 people who raise their hands. And then they self-organize and they self-govern. So I think there's 2 different models that could work.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. Eric and Shane, have either of you been familiar with this kind of model and in your own organizations? And if yes, how have they worked out for you?
You want me to go first, Shane?
Go for it, Eric.
Okay. No, I'm very familiar with this sprint squad concept that Monique just described. We just experienced something like that with one of the companies that I'm on the board of, Salisbury Industries, which does a whole range of engineering and construction projects in the energy transition space. And the sprint squad experience was actually with the customer. So in this case, Exxon Corporation has piloting several different iterations of carbon sequestration projects. So Salisbury has some very unique engineering capabilities, and they formed kind of a cross supplier customer sprint team to do some rapid development of what was required to get in front of some regulators who are spearheading, the deployment of funds around all these energy transition projects. So the way it was reported back to us at the board level was it was incredibly productive. blending of capabilities between, in this case, our company and the customer, and the results were exponential. So it works.
And what was the period of time that elapsed before you were able to launch some of those collaborations or new offerings?
4 months. Because
4 months.
It had a timeline constraint related to getting the project approved and then properly getting sequenced for beginnings. Yeah.
Yes, I remember the days of waterfall software development when, we were looking at 18 to 24 months. Those days seem to be long gone. So Shane, you have some roots in software engineering and design. What aspects of that have you brought to your role as really the chief growth officer at Sandbox that may be similar or different to what Eric and Monique have shared?
Yeah, I think one of the pieces that sparked something recently that we saw. So we kicked off a big campaign with the Army. Everything about a 4-month time frame too, which in government time is pretty quick to get something from ideation phase to launched out across all recruiting stations in the US. And I think one big piece that I noticed was we're a remote first company. We've people from Guam the whole way to Germany. But what was important was getting people together to remove some of the asynchronous communications. And I think that helps with the speed. And I think it also helps when you're talking about partners like Eric is of, moving at that speed of trust too and building trust quicker. So it was kind of a funny piece that we came across that even though we're remote first, we're still trying to get people in office for these design sprints that we're doing or these kickoff sprints. And some of that might be just so that we can go out for dinner in the evening. People can get to know each other a little bit better internally on our team. And you're not waiting for someone to come back to you asynchronously as well. So I think that has helped a lot with the speed and has sort of changed based on what's been happening recently with this kind of move to work from home.
Yes, and all of you have workforces that are distributed. And Monique, how many countries now does Schneider Electric operate in?
More than 60 countries. My team, for example, is in, I believe, more than 15 different countries. So certainly remote work, virtual workplace, all of the terms ring true and are alive as well. And I think when you talk about innovation in an environment where you're also very remote, it has very different dynamics than in the days when everyone was in the office, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. I think it goes back to the need for the flexibility and also the need for tools, different tools in order to create that innovative environment for people when you're working remote.
Speaking of tools, we have to get, the elephant in the room. Everyone's talking about generative AI. How much are you finding that some of the apps that are being built and the agents being built around generative AI are helping these particular sprint squads or hindering them? And what are you doing to instill productivity versus security and network concerns around them?
I can jump in there first. I think it's still relatively early days. So we do use some tools for copywriting, some of the kind of more day-to-day tasks that might free up a bit more time for creative thinking, or maybe it's someone on a product team or it's helping them write some of the requirement documents and flesh that out, or even to do some initial brainstorming. I don't think the tools for some of that day-to-day basic task piece are at a standard yet where you would set it and forget it. Like, I don't think there's anyone worried about their roles or their jobs or anything with that. But that's not to say that they won't get better and free up people's time probably in the next 12 to 18 months. Even what we've seen in the last 12 months with some of the tools we've played around with for copywriting have been, they've come on exponentially. So I think if we continue to see that, it should free up some of our marketing team's time as well.
Are you standardizing on any particular tool such as Jasper or Writer.ai, or are you still in the evaluation phase, Shane?
I would say we're in the experimentation phase more than maybe evaluation. So we're trying a bunch of them, trying some internal tooling. Some of the vendors that we work with, so for example, in our customer support side, they'll have plug and play. So there's like a technology we're using called Native. And what that does is if someone messages our customer support team in a language that we don't provide that support in, it will do that communication translation in real time, and it connects in directly with our vendor. So some of it's vendor dictated as well. But there's stuff like that that is driving real immediate value, but then you're paying upfront for that. And it's a little bit more of that, I guess, evaluation and maybe a little less experimentation when it requires technology implementation.
So you think it's a little too early to say we're standardizing on any particular tools?
Yeah, I think we're still in the beta phase for a lot of the tooling. And it's interesting, we talked about the efficacy of marketing budgets, when we were reviewing some of the marketing budgets coming up now into the new quarter. It's sort of like, who is willing to fight for these tools? And a lot of times people weren't at the point yet whereby they were willing to fight for, like, this is saving me $5,000-$10,000 a month, so it's worth us paying for this tool. So I think we don't have a strong enough opinion on majority of them. I would say there's probably one or two that are having a direct impact on efficiency and the bottom line.
Yes, and it's an exciting time to be alive, if nothing else. I've been touting that people should follow the Marketing AI Institute wherever they can, because they give us 45-minute updates once a week on what's changed, what's Google up to, how are we doing advertising differently. They're keeping a very close tabs on that and are able to distill all of the changes down very quickly. Speaking of quickly, I'd love to hear from any of you right now. What marketing innovation are you most proud of at this stage of your career, over the past 18 to 24 months, that might inspire some of us who are watching?
Go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
No, one of our companies is called Commerce Science Corporation, and our brand is Ecom Now. And it's an amazing technology platform that allows any distributed market to have stand-up e-commerce sites that are hands-free. And it's very advanced. It's very disruptive, way beyond what Shopify or even Amazon can produce. Those are very clunky, even in today's technology world. And so we just signed a license with the country of Poland to become their single source e-commerce enabler. It's an amazing country. It's under great leadership. Its commerce modernization is very advanced, and they want to unleash e-commerce across all their different business verticals. So it's an exciting new license for this company, and we intend to use generative AI as part of the customer support system. And there are a ton of new tools out there that we're going to begin experimenting with to figure out which ones will work as part of the complete kind of service set in launching into that country. So very exciting opportunity.
Well, we'll have to make sure that we put that company name and URL in our show notes. Because so my follow-up question for you on that, Eric, very briefly, is what level of innovation do you think this introduces to the country of Poland, for example, or to even, let's say, Tom's Shoes, who might want to standardize on this e-commerce platform and displace what they already have?
Yeah, well, it's highly functional technology that allows you to stand up any set of products that you want to sell in any market and all the payment rails are automated. All of the customization is automated. All of the recommendations for solutions is automated. And whether you're a single source entrepreneur, or you're a franchise system, or you run a series of therapy clinics, every one of your practitioners can have their own store for their customers, and they never have to carry inventory. It's e-commerce at your fingertips. And so for Poland, what they want to do is they want to unleash that technology to increase more omni-channel e-commerce and invite more capital to come into their country, et cetera. So it's got a broad range of implications to it.
Shane, I know that Sandbox sells some swag on your website. Maybe that's something you can look into.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about that, Eric.
Monique, what's one of your favorite marketing innovations that makes you proud?
Oh, there's a few from the the bag of goods that I can think of. There's actually one internal and there's one external as well. So externally, something that I'm really proud about, and this was a cross collaborative innovation or initiative at Schneider between the brand and communications team and of course our businesses, was within the last year we launched our Sustainability Impact Awards. And these are actually awards where we recognize our customers. We started with our channel partners on all of the efforts that they're doing around sustainability, decarbonization. Eric, you mentioned the energy transition, very near and dear to my heart, talking about singing from the same hymnal. And so we wanted to encourage and create a community to accelerate our sustainability goals as a planet. And so we've done this through these Sustainability Impact Awards. And there's a couple different levels. It's both at the global level and regionally. And there's two different ways that we're acknowledging our channel partners. One is how they are taking steps forward for their own operations in sustainability, but then also how they're doing it for their customers. So now you're 2 steps down the value chain, right? So they're our partners and we're recognizing what they're doing for their end users as well. And I'm just really proud of this because it was this cross-collaborative initiative between the global organization and our businesses and the countries, because they were the ones who were talking to the customers, encouraging them to apply and to be recognized. And so we'll be rewarding and celebrating our channel partners later on this year at our Global Innovation Summit. So very proud moment, Lisa, to be able to recognize our own partners in their sustainability journey.
That sounds exciting. And you're really, as you touched on this, you're going deeper into the value chain and having a ripple effect on the consciousness around sustainability versus strictly a one and done awards banquet, which I love. Do you anticipate creating or tracking any correlation between your customers' success with your industrial solutions or customer retention as a result of some of these awards?
No, look, I think that it's always an element, right? When you put together these types of programs, and certainly we work closely with these customers on the day-to-day with our own offerings and solutions. I think there's also an opportunity here to recognize our customers on their entire sustainability efforts. So not just the work that they do with Schneider, but also work that they're doing perhaps with their own suppliers as well. So there's a certain element to that, Lisa, for sure.
That's exciting. I love those kinds of stories. And Shane, I keep thinking YouTube. Whenever I think about your more recent innovation, I don't want to lead you to the answer, though. Maybe you've been causing other good trouble since we talked about that, and I wrote about you in the Harvard Business Review. But which one are you most proud of as of today?
I definitely think our move and expansion on YouTube. So we've over 250,000 subscribers on there, get millions of hits a month. You have the ad revenue side, you have the brand building, all of that, particularly in a time when some of the paid media and paid marketing is getting more difficult to track the efficacy of that too. Going back to the current efficacy and data analytics and everything else, but it's also building a huge community from us. And from that now, we're building a huge community on the app. It's why we're running this new experience program we have with the Army. And a lot of that is stemmed from YouTube, which actually stemmed from our content creation and our news site that we, stood up about 3 or 4 years ago. And I think, not to go too buzzwordy on it, but it still comes back to building those tribes and communities of your loyal, followers and customers so that they trust you and trust the brand. So, I'm, a data scientist, engineer by training, but, coming back to that brand loyalty and connecting with people, it still continues to be important, even if we talk about efficacy of budget and profitability and everything else.
Yes. So how's that community doing now, and how is it fueling either revenues or retention or satisfaction of your loyal customers in the armed services arena?
So it's funny. So our news site, we get millions of hits a month to that, like our written news site. That's a big chunk of that is organic. We're doing very well from an SEO perspective and inbound. And it's funny because our editor, Alex Hollings, who does a lot of the videos, it kind of pains him in certain ways because he's a writer, loves writing, but then you see the proliferation of short video content. And people are getting more and more excited about that. So I think what it's doing is it's putting faces and personalities to the folks on our team. And it's connecting us with a different audience too, the folks that may not want to sit down and read a 1,200, 2,000 word piece on something that's happening within the military, but they want to see the 15-minute video. And then we have the audience that may only want to watch the 90-second video. So we then have to split what content we're delivering at what time to what audience based on their usage demographics that we're tracking within the platform too.
Interesting.
It sounds like it's creating variety. You're meeting your audience where they are, as opposed to saying everyone needs to read an entire 2,000-word blog post. You're saying, let's divide this up into different snippets. And there are so many tools now available using generative AI to convert content into so many different formats. And let's, as we wrap up, I'd love to know, how do each of you surround yourselves with resources or colleagues to help your ideas continue to flow and for innovation to continuously happen?
Well, for me, I am honored and privileged to be on several boards and involved with several companies in our private equity holding company with some very talented people from all across different industries and experiences. And one of the things we try to have as kind of a common denominator in our cultures is asking the question, what can we build? If you think about kind of the backdrop of marketing excellence or leadership excellence, you think about defining what current reality is, what's happening, understanding why it happened, what might happen next, and then the predictive question is, what should you do next? But the most important question now in this world is, what can you build? And having a collaborative relationship with people that have subject matter expertise, especially with generative AI now, opens up a wide canvas to answer that question related to your vision and what your customers either see and understand as their needs or don't see yet. And that's the next level of excellence, I think, in front of all of us.
Yes, and the rigor around those questions is key and cannot be put into an autonomous agent. That requires human beings in a room together, looking at each other in the eye and looking and watching for the nuances. That's the other half of our brain that generative AI cannot replace. Yes, it does the linear, the planning, the templates, the tools, but understanding relationships from different disparate places, understanding emotion, empathy, we still need those skills, and those kinds of questions can trigger those kinds of connections. So thank you, Eric. Monique, I know we're kind of leading up to Click here coming up in November. How do you find and select people to inspire you or your innovative muscles?
So I think I'll answer that two ways, Lisa. So I'll leave the external piece to the end, and that can lead us to the conversation on Click. I mean, internally, sometimes I think we forget that we can find so much inspiration within our own organizations. And it doesn't have to be within your immediate perimeter that you work with every day. Two of the core values that we have at Schneider are learn every day and dare to disrupt. And one of the things that we do is we do a dare to disrupt challenge, where we invite groups of teams, people to come together and think about new business models, think about new software, new technologies, and then they pitch them to a group of senior executives. And if the ideas are selected, those folks actually move out of their jobs and they go and they run with these ideas for a year. So there's a tremendous amount of support for this type of initiative. Imagine one of your folks on your team, they say, I have this great new idea, I want to do it, and they get selected. They leave your team, right? And you have to fill that resource. But that's how much belief the company has in innovation. The reason I share that, Lisa, is because I have enjoyed mentoring some of these teams in the Dare to Disrupt Challenge, and they fuel me. And these are folks that could be, more early career. And I love seeing their passion and their enthusiasm. So internally, I get a lot of ideas and inspiration from these types of groups. Externally, it's groups like Click. It's groups like the folks with Eric and Shane, where you can look outside and you can get a completely different perspective. It might be a different industry, something that you don't do every day, but yet the value of that learning is really, really important to me.
Well, we're glad you're part of the Click cohort coming up in Nashville. And I know my producer, Marissa Callie, is going to put that banner here for everyone to check out. And Shane, you've been part of our cohort and community for the last 4 years. None of the people in our cohort are marketing to the military like you are. So how has that inspired you to innovate?
Well, the community in general, I think it's like what Monique just said there, because at some companies, people will come up with ideas or the ideas are given from the top down and, dictated on what to do. But I think what Monique said kind of resonated with me, where you're giving people a channel that they can talk about what it is that, what their ideas or what they're seeing, because potentially some of these folks are the ones that are, some of our team members might be every single day, they might be spending time with our customers. So maybe they have the ideas that are coming up first, or like on our side, we have a team of a military relations team that they've spent, 30 plus years in the military each. So there's hundreds of years of experience of being in those shoes. So, we need to be able to channel those ideas in and then be able to execute on them quickly. And I think to Eric's point on culture, I think that's what's important, right? It's you have the idea, how do you build, execute? Like we sometimes talk about MVPs, minimal viable products, but it may also be an MVT in terms of a minimal viable test that we can do. And how do we build to get something in front of people and then iterate on that once we get some level of signal back? So I think regardless of where the market is or what industry we're talking about, I think that's what some of the best companies are doing, have been doing with the last 10 years, but are continuing to do them now as well.
It's an exciting time to be a market leader for sure. I'm doing a rapid fire round right now. Please give us one word that you think best describes your experience and value from being part of Click, the CMO's leading innovation conference.
Catalyst.
Catalyst.
I would say, this is a hard one, Lisa. Passion.
Passion.
I'll go with energy.
Wow. Catalyst. I'm writing these down. We're going to have to put those into the agenda for the Click gathering coming up in Nashville. So I want to thank each of you for returning to Click, being part of this cohort, inspiring so many of us to continue to make innovation not something we do, but who we are, making it part of our melody in our leadership. And also a shout out to Alex McCarthy, who just put some comments there for us. I'm really thrilled, Alex, that you could join us from Denver today. And I'm really looking forward to seeing each of you in November in Nashville, Tennessee. So thank you so much for being here and telling us about your marketing innovations.
It's a pleasure, Lisa. Thank you.
We'll see you
Thanks, Lisa.
soon.
Okay.
And I make sure everyone here follows Monique, Shane, and Eric. Make sure they are part of your LinkedIn community and don't miss any of their posts. You will enjoy learning from them. So before we wrap up, I really invite each of you to visit our website, inviting you to the CMO's Leading Innovation Conference. You'll be obviously in very good company. We are being hosted this year by the president and the dean of Belmont University and their business school. So we're very excited that they stepped forward and saw such value in the people attending from the companies you've just learned from, as well as Allianz Bernstein, CoStar Group, AARP, and even Charlene Lee, the author of The Disruption Mindset. So she's going to help us kick it off in September on Zoom. So make sure you sign up and join us, as room is extremely limited at this point. I'm going to be back here on July 7th, welcoming Eric Kaufman, a San Diego friend and colleague. And Eric is going to be talking to us further about communication, which is this season's theme. And we're going to be talking about from breakdown to breakthrough. What is the Conscious Leader's Guide? He just wrote a new book called Leadership Breakdown. As I said earlier, folks, it's easy to have leadership and communications breakdown in today's world of work, hybrid work settings, living behind a screen. He's going to break down for us things we can do to mitigate those kinds of challenges. So, my friends, it's Friday. Enjoy your summer weekend. I know I am going to be seeing some friends and enjoying some time out in the woods. Make it a great one, and we will see you back here July 7th.